My goal in this video is to give you some direction as you continue drafting your short story, to talk about some strategies that you can use to develop your story and give you some examples that show those strategies in use. So I first want to talk to you about the shape of a short story. This is something that I learned in a college creative writing class. So many stories follow the shape of beginning with action, then giving some background, developing the plot towards some kind of climactic moment, and then resolving things or not resolving them in an ending. So you have already started on this in your opening paragraph. You've included some action by showing your character in some aspect of his or her daily routine. Some of you have included some background in that opening paragraph, and you may include that in some more of that in your first 2 pages about your character's history or the history of the world that you've created and how it got that way. And your focus today is going to be on development, developing your story, moving your character towards a climactic moment. This could be a conflict, a moment of choice, doing something about a struggle, and then the way that your character handles that climactic moment is going to bring about the ending of your story. So, some ways to incorporate background information gracefully without just launching into like explanation is what I want to show you some examples of. So, what we've seen in 1984, and I'll show you that in a moment, is the way that Orwell uses flashbacks to Winston's dreams and memories to give us some information about his history and also about the history of the world that he is living in. One specific narrative technique that you can use is called juggling, just like, keeping multiple things in the air at the same time. And what you're doing when you're juggling as a writer is that you're going back and forth between action that the character is engaged in and some background information, which you're conveying either through the character's thoughts, like what this person is thinking while they're doing the action, which may be not about what they're actually doing, or through description of the kind of the character's surroundings, showing what they're seeing. And again, if you followed one of the templates for the opening paragraph, you saw some of that as we see the juggling between Winston getting home and entering Victory Mansions and what he's seeing and thinking about that gives us some information about the world. So this will give you a way to reveal the background of your character and world without really stepping out of the action and giving this lengthy explanation. So let me show you that one example from part 1, chapter 3. So this is when Winston wakes up in the morning and he is doing his morning workout. So the action of this part of this scene really is Winston obeying the directions on the telescreen for his workout. And as he is doing that, he's thinking about the dreams that he had, and he is thinking about his knowledge of history and the fact that he can't really remember things from his past. So we have kind of the interspersing of directions from the telescreen and Winston's thoughts and memories. So here we have a really long section of his memories. And then again, we have a mention of what he's actually doing in real time, that he is doing these exercises. Then we go back to some of what he's thinking about the party. Then we have the telescreen giving him directions. We have Winston pausing, taking a breath for a moment, again, thinking about what's happening, and then again, the woman giving directions. So this continues for the rest of the chapter. So that's one way that you can have your character do something, but be thinking about something else, and that enables you to incorporate some background. Now I want to show you some examples from the student short stories that you've been reading. So in Judd's, we have the action of his character waking up, being addressed by the voice in his room, dealing with the punishment of his room being set at 32 degrees. And then Judd really gracefully right here has his character getting dressed. And there's a really great transition here. So the name tag contains no name, but the number assigned to him when he was born. And then he just incorporates some background about how his character was born. Then he continues dressing. Then he goes to get some food, talks about how the government cheese is his favorite food. I'll let you, well, if you haven't read that, there's a great moment of surprise that comes after that. In Evan's story, he has this interaction with the girl. He gets a phone call from a friend telling Evan's character that the Lord has disappeared. And as he's thinking about that, we get a little bit of background about who that person is and what the character knows about that person. And then in Mandy's story, her character wakes up and is getting dressed, being directed by some kind of electronic voice as well. And she is then remembering a dream that she had that represents something that she wants beyond her world. And then as she goes through her routine, it kind of talks about how this is the norm for her character. So those are some ways that you can use dreams, memories, or this idea of juggling to continue to develop your story and also give some background at the same time. So your focus today in your work is going to be developing your story with as much background as you want to include, but really moving your character towards a climactic moment of choice. So by the end of your first 2 pages, the character should either be facing that climactic moment, or we should have an idea of what things are building towards. So I hope that gives you some direction in your work today, and I'm looking forward to seeing how you continue to develop your short story.